Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ask Me Anything show by JVology. I am your host, Krista, and it is my pleasure to give a very fun, rich, decadent, exciting, sensual, little like shimmy around the shoulder, flower in the hair kind of a guest, Victoria Vives Khuong. It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Krista, and hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here and share about what's coming up.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is going to be fun. I've been looking forward to it for a couple of weeks now. So before we get diving into all of the juicy topics and insights that Victoria has to share with everyone, I just want to welcome all of you, especially if you're a friend of Victoria's and you are coming and meeting us here at JVology for the first time. We are an awesome community that is all about creating true, authentic relationships where you can have profitable partnerships and learn the art and science of joint ventures to grow your business, your reach, your influence, and certainly your fun. It's actually part of our tagline. We are the perfect mix of people, fun, and profits. And look at the amazing people that we attract into our community, like Victoria. You joined our JVology live event, correct?
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, and now everyone loves to interview you and talk to you, and we're learning so much about what your specialty is. So before we get diving into what Victoria has to offer, I've got to kick this show off officially with our JVology intro. Gotta love the wink there. That's just sets it all off. Well, I'm Krista Inakovsky. I am the Director of Member Care and a coach here at JVology. And I love that I have this weekly show, getting the opportunity to connect with and showcase and highlight some of the amazing experts and people that we have within our community so that all of you out there get a chance to know who they are. And so I will say this really quickly. It looks like we've got some great people watching. If you are seeing this video on any shared page, I want you to go right above the video where it says Jay Facette. Click on Jay's name. That's going to open up to our original broadcast page. And from there, when you comment, I will get to see your comments. You can ask Victoria questions. We'll throw your questions or comments up on the screen and get to interact with you. So that's a lot more fun. Don't just watch it from a viewer, but engage. Click on Jay's name and get to our original broadcast page, and we'll have some fun that way. So I know I want to give you a chance to talk, but I want to introduce you first. Victoria Vives Khuong is an international best-selling author of In a Matter of Seconds, Healing and Shamanism Teacher. And I want to see it. Let's see it. Let's see that book. Oh my goodness, that is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Dive into that in a matter of seconds. All right. She's a spiritual leader and the host of the Divine Sexuality podcast. She's helped thousands of women around the world to access greater fulfillment in their lives and help others do the same through energy healing and spirituality. Victoria emphasizes divine sexuality as the most important philosophy she teaches because it is at the foundation of femininity and womanhood. Oh my gosh, got you a little prop up. I completely agree. So welcome, Victoria. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Krista. I'm so excited to be on your show with the JVology. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So let's dive in here. You were just showing us the book. Give us, what is A Matter of Seconds? What is that title all about? It's very intriguing.
Yes. So in a matter of seconds, you can transform your life. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be like this changing, but truly a matter of changing perspective in a second. It just takes that, changing a perspective, finding a new path, receiving an insight that can help you have a different outlook. It can be in a matter of seconds.
Oh, that's so true.
And it's actually an autobiography because my life has been like a roller coaster, very exciting. And in the book, I actually give the keys to freedom, how I transform my life to go from a place of terrible repression and abuse and poverty into a place that I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's really, it's great that you're sharing your story, because a lot of people will find inspiration in not just hearing the facts of how to do something, but following your journey. Is there a few things you can share with us that made some pivotal impact in making that change in your life? I know there's a whole book load of great content, but what stands out to you most?
Well, the thing that comes right now, a couple of things actually come to my mind. One was growing up as the only Black person I met until I was 14. So yeah, so that was pretty interesting. My mom is half part German, my grandmother half German, so I grew up with them and my aunt. So my household was white women, whereas my dad was from Nigeria, but I didn't have that relationship with him. So that created an environment in Spain. At that time, there were no Black people. So that could be, becoming the victim because people treated me pretty badly because of that. I was the different one. But in some ways, I was able to turn it around, and I was one of the first Black faces in television. So life give us things that might be challenging, but how can we turn it around? It's something special that maybe only you have. How can you change it and turn it around?
I love that. I love that. And we often don't see it or don't recognize it, especially when we're young, right? All we just see is the differences, but to step in and embrace what makes each person unique, whether it's in how you look or how you sound or your viewpoints or how you interpret life. That's what's making the world so rich, is everyone having, those who are bold enough to step in and to claim the voice that they have to say or be something different. So I love that you did that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So my big question is, where did the divine sexuality come into play?
Yes. So as part of the repression I experienced growing up, what happened is that there was a dictatorship. So it was a very conservative regime. There was the dictator, but also a very ultra-conservative Catholic tradition there. So my grandmother and everybody was very, very, very traditional. So women were basically like second class. So we were to serve our husbands, and and sex was strictly for procreation. So all of that already created an environment where sexuality was nothing that we could express. It was all a taboo, shame. And I was quite rebel. So I didn't care so much, but this still had a stigma on me. So when I noticed it the most is when I started teaching and training practitioners in healing. At that point, I focused so much in spirituality that I realized that all my background, all my conditioning from my childhood was coming through. So suddenly I was with my husband and I would have all this shame and guilt and all this not feeling good in my body. And I was feeling like, wow, I'm teaching healing and I'm not feeling that healthy, because sexuality is actually something essential for our lives. It's really healthy for us. It's the only way to continue on this planet, right? By having babies. So I was feeling really bad about that. And I started researching and finding the truth about what happened, why we feel this conditioning, and why we are not able to, as women, enjoy our sexuality. So because of that, I finally started working with the concept of divine sexuality, which elevates sexuality out of the gutter of shame and objectification, guilt, and taboo, and elevates us into a realm of divine intimacy, of truly connecting with our beloved, our own bodies, and truly tapping into that force that can fuel even our businesses, because it gives us that creativity, even more productivity. So that's how I started with it. And I realized that my students when they were interested in this process of divine sexuality, they were actually able to heal much faster as well.
I can see that. It's interesting. Just a few months before you and I met, I really kind of dove into this conversation myself and have been listening to podcasts and studying and reading it. It grabbed my attention in this. It's like this contradiction that women are constantly in, right? We're taught what a good girl looks like, but the men want us to be a certain way, but not in front of other people. But men can be like this, but women can't be like this. I mean, it's all over the map as far as what we're taught, what we're imprinted, what we're told we shouldn't do, what's good, what's bad. And there's a ton of judgment. And that's even without diving into any particular religion. And then add religion on top of that. There's nothing wrong with religion. However, in most cases, it really downplays the power of the woman and her sexuality and sensuality and those things. And perhaps, just an observation, perhaps that was dumbed down centuries ago because it is such a sense of power.
Exactly.
When men or leaders took that away from women, maybe they were onto something. It was probably quite intentional. Because, and what I've learned and I'm learning and experiencing, just as you said, Victoria, is that it is a true sense of personal power and creativity. It's our ultimate source of creation, right? That's what the woman's body is for. So tell me more, because I'm like,
yeah, I know, it's so interesting, and I love speaking with you about this. Yes, so yeah, absolutely, and I think that you are tapping into very important things. We tend to go into a very masculine role, and this completely deplete us. And we see in our families, in our society, how we don't truly dedicate time to nurture ourselves and others. And it's so easy for us to feel like body shame, compare ourselves, but so rare to see somebody just enjoying and feeling beautiful and saying it, right? Like people would be like, how dare you say that you're beautiful? It's like we always have to be like ashamed of our bodies, and we cannot live with that personal power, as you were saying. So this aspect of, in religion, even the patriarchal religions as well, and the patriarchal societies, it doesn't leave us to have our space to truly express our sexuality, and that can really bring a lot of different problems. So, for example, women that are unable to connect with their femininity, their sexuality, might start experiencing more pain, especially during sexual relationships, but even in other aspects. And I'm telling you because actually I had this experience. I was so disconnected from my body that I didn't really have the connection enough to measure how much I could work or not. I was just on my mind, working. And I didn't have that connection with my body. And you, as a dancer, you know what that means. Like, really feeling in our bodies is essential. So taking time to really remembering who we are and practice self-care, which is something that very often we leave for the last thing that we do. How often happens that we want to go get a massage and it's like, okay, maybe next week, maybe the following week, and we never get it done. Or we have something that we want to do something for ourselves, and it's normally the last thing on the list. So this needs to change for sure.
And I know that you're going to be doing a 5-day challenge coming up pretty soon, and it's focused around connecting to self-care and self-love. Can you give us a little heads up as to what you're going to be encouraging us to do during that 5-day challenge?
Yes, absolutely. So sometimes what happens is that we want to go right into, I want to have an amazing relationship with my body, my husband, intimacy, everything, and sex to be amazing. But we need to go one step at a time. So if we are not able to give ourselves self-love, how are we going to go into all these ecstatic experiences of a life of bliss and sex that is amazing, right? So that's why, so the first step is these 5 self-care secrets in 5 days. So I'm going to guide you by the hand so that you can take one step every day to move toward your objective of feeling more self-love. Sometimes we are here during COVID in lockdown at home and with our families, and sometimes we don't really feel the love that we would want to feel. Like it's like, oh, well, I'm with my family, I should feel more love than usually, but sometimes we might not have that connection because we are not even giving love to ourselves. So how can we turn this around to start making it a priority and understanding that in order to be more productive, more creative, having better relationships, look more youthful, more beautiful, we need to start with self-care?
I agree with that completely. It's a whole entire process before getting to the bedroom. We'll just say that. For most women, it's not like a light switch where you can go from having a stress day of getting everything done for yourself, for your business, if you're married, if you have kids, whatever those other circumstances are, and then all of a sudden be like, okay, it's time, and you're like just going like, oh, now I feel sexy. Like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't just happen like that. And so what it sounds like what you're saying and encouraging us to do is tune into that and who we are all throughout the day. It really, I see it as almost more of an entire like lifestyle or energy that you have always, and not just to think of sexuality as the act of having sex, but it's an energy of who you are. And all right, I'm not the expert, I just like the topic, so keep talking.
Yes, and you're right on. So yeah, it's the idea of how can we do things from a feminine aspect. We have a squashed down femininity to exude masculinity and be out there and be competitive in the world. So how can we change that and just almost like sit in our own juiciness, and from there living in that ecstatic space where things feel a little bit better. I know some women that come to me, they go to bed at night and they feel their face even tense during night, like clenching because of the tension. So if instead of that, we just like relax into that well-being that we can hold as the feminine force. And also another thing that I notice is that by tapping into that, it's almost like we can be the carriers of that nurturing energy. Imagine that it's almost like a role that we have been granted, that we are the beautiful feminine force, like flowers that go around the world and just bring their beautiful aroma. So as we are giving it, we not just give it, first we inhale it. Oh, I feel so good. So then as we exhale it, naturally it's going to help others and it's going to enhance everything that we are doing. But first it starts with oneself for sure.
I love that. And it really, what you're expressing is that beauty starts from within and comes from within. And I believe that women need to remember that and start with that, because as you mentioned judgment, we can be way too hard and critical on ourselves, or comparing to what the stereotype of sexy is, especially if you look into like real, like sexy, or what, is kind of objectified. And then women look in the mirror and they're like, well, I don't look like that, or that's not who I am. But it's when you start from the inside, like you said, it's like when you breathe it in and you start doing this internal work, it actually changes the look of your expression and the glow of your skin and the softness in your body. That will become the result of starting within, and not just going, well, I'm not quite pretty enough to be sexy, or whatever that thought process might be for some women.
And it absolutely is. I have women that come to my courses and they come with a feeling of inadequacy, which is crazy. I mean, why would we feel it like that in the first place? But after they come and we start working in the 5 hidden traumas, we actually work through 5 hidden traumas. As we work through that, they start realizing, no, I'm so gorgeous. And no matter what age I am, no matter what body type I am, I'm a woman. And I am so happy to have this body that is creative, that is beautiful. And it's not just about the body, it's about the vitality I'm feeling, the voice I have. So there are so many aspects. Some people that might be very beautiful, then they open their mouths and it's like, oh wow, that voice is not so sexy. So it's not just the physique. There are so many things, and the character traits, so many things that make a woman. So to measure ourselves by our physique is kind of crazy. It's
It
how
is.
we are conditioned. So
It's
we need to redefine all of this for sure.
Yes. And you mentioned that you go through 5 traumas. I don't know what the traumas are, but I do believe that pretty much any woman has had some misbelief, some story, some imprint, something that is holding her back from her full true essence, because this isn't taught. This isn't open conversation. It's not, when I have I have 2 teenagers. My daughter just turned 14, my son's 16. So, I know what it's like going through these adolescent years, and what's taught is simply biological, how it's done. But it's really up to a parent being open or tapping into some other outside experience or guide or shaman, like you are, a teacher that can help women especially understand all that's available to them, to her, and that it's not wrong, right? That's a whole layer. Like, we just got to get past that part before you can dive into the good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why sometimes women come to my classes not for themselves, but because they want also their kids to have a good experience and be raised in a different way that they have been. So
Yes. James is saying
I've
hello.
seen James. I like, I don't want to be distracted,
And
but hi.
Josiana's watching. Get her on. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, honestly, where people are a little bit uncomfortable about talking about it. I guess probably the majority of women are a little uncomfortable talking about sexuality, because again, it just comes back to the fact that it's somewhat forbidden, or what words do you say? But when we open it up and really get it on the table and have a true conversation for both men and women, like, men need to understand this as well, so that they can understand their partner, or if they're women together, that communication is a huge part of sensuality and sexuality as well. What are your thoughts on communication?
Yeah, so what I wanted to share with what you said about men needing to hear this. So I have my Divine Sexuality podcast and group and other things. And it's like a lot of men actually are reaching out and listening because they need to understand their women. And the world that we live in is so masculine that men think that we are like men, but in the other way, like they don't realize that our whole makeup is completely different. So communication, of course, is very important, and it's going to take a while for men to realize that we are different, that how their psyche is, and for us women even to realize that many of the information that we have about sexuality, about relationships and other things, sometimes is from a masculine perspective. So it's not really addressing the specific issues that we might have as women, especially when it comes to sexuality. So there has been more and more studies on this matter, and we are now understanding that many of the things have to be redefined.
Yes. Oh, I think that's very, very true, that it needs to be redefined, on a broad perspective, and also redefined within any relationship. If it wasn't established with open communication and sharing, then a relationship could learn this, right, as a pair, to come in and understand what that looks like, and really enhance a relationship by adding these elements of not just at the basic level, what do you like and what do I like and what does it take, and all of those things can just add a lot. And what doesn't work, what triggers you, what makes you uncomfortable, and not being reactive of going, well, I did this and she said no, so she must not like me. And that's the
Yeah,
story that's going on in a lot of men's heads as well as women.
it's hard to relate, and I completely understand. We have such a different makeup that it's hard to understand that we are not turned on enough because of the same things. So that's why some of the people coming to classes, they actually had kids, like boys, and they are so happy because now they are kind of training them and raising them up in a way that they can understand more about a woman and relate to women in a different way. So it's so important. I can tell that if my mom, grandmother, they would have had some knowledge about all of this, I would feel so much more comfortable and I would have not gone through this process. But of course, all women are suffering together. We are all suffering together. We sometimes I actually have mother and daughter coming to classes, and it's that generational healing that can be super powerful.
I like that. I like that idea of the generational, because it can be hard for one woman in the family to step into this empowerment and the others not, and not understand or not understand why or what she's doing, or thinking that it's just about being like weird in the bedroom, or like, oh, now you have this like odd sexy side. That's not it. And yet I have to understand, like, many generations have zero framework for this.
It is so funny what you just mentioned because I think most of the women understand what this is about, but I get the guys that are really interested in changing the relationship with their partners, but then I got the, hey, divine sexuality, oh, that's hot, blah, blah, and they don't understand that it's a lot about healing what takes us away from that enjoying sexuality. So it's a lot about like healing trauma, understanding that body shame is not necessary. So there is a lot of groundwork that is not necessarily all the sexy that some people envision.
Exactly. And I think those who just go for, oh, let me learn a few new positions, or something that's kind of superficial, they're missing the mark of not actually doing the deep work and the hard work and the uncovering and the letting go and the changing of beliefs and changing of perspectives. There has to be a willingness to really let go and step into something new to fully embody what you're talking about here.
Yeah, and all those new postures and everything, it has a place, and we do work on some of that. But unless there is a foundation where we are feeling really comfortable in our bodies, we feel that we have a sisterhood that supports us, we know that we have the guidance, we understand that we can heal sexual trauma. So unless we go through all of those steps, the other is like the icing without the cake.
Ah, that's a great analogy. It's a great analogy, and that's just going to fall apart, right? That you can
Sooner
try,
or later, sooner or later.
but it's not going to be able to hold up without the cake underneath of it. I really love the idea of you doing this in as a sisterhood, or as women supporting women, because the more we all understand the power of our femininity, our sensuality, our presence, and we can complement one another, and we can be happy that you're wearing pink and a flower in your hair, and that I've like to dance or dress a certain way, or always whatever, that it's not about comparison, it's not about putting someone down, it's not about thinking that a beautiful woman is a threat to your partner. It's about all of us embracing who are really essentially called to be, letting that out and letting that free, and stepping into that as a womanhood, to
Yes.
allow each other to embrace it.
The sisterhood actually is an essential aspect. Sometimes women might join with their friends. It's just having that support, because sometimes in our friendships, even in our partnerships with our spouse or partners, we don't necessarily talk about certain things. So in my classes, sometimes I experience people that finally are able to understand this is a safe space and I can express what I need, what I couldn't tell my psychologist, my boyfriend, or anybody so far. Now I can express it finally in this safe container, and the women are going to just hold you, support you, and you're going to be able to release it. So we need those spaces. This should not be something like prohibit to talk about. Like I'm seeing, like, for example, on Facebook, they sanction any word about sexuality. It's like, no, this is a subject that cannot be talked about. So that's why we have so much trouble, so much distorted sexuality, because it has become unnatural. If I see animals, like I have here in my yard, I see the bears, I see the squirrels, they don't have all this conditioning about sex because it's natural.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'd love to hear more about the course that you offer, Victoria. Who is it for, and what would that experience look like?
Yes, so I really recommend this for any woman, but specifically for any business women that are close to burnout, that are feeling that the bandwidth is like just reaching the limit, and you just need some time for yourself. So that's a great place to start. Also for mothers and spouses that just giving everything to their family and they have no me time. And then ultimately also for anybody in COVID, during COVID, that they are locked down at home, they might be completely alone because they don't have family or a partner, so that's hard, so we need self-love. Or they're with family but there is no intimacy, there is no connection, so they're used to be in a 9 to 5 and now they're all day together, and like it's hard for them to be in that relationship. So it all starts by ourselves. So starting with our self-care, and then relationships and businesses and everything can improve.
That's wonderful, and I do truly believe, from what I've been experiencing and reading and seeing, and just through my own growth, that opens up. Their creativity is creativity, right? And the more in touch you are with who you are and how to express yourself, that's going to show up in every area of your life. And I think if we can perhaps stop compartmentalizing our sexuality to just the sex that's had with your partner behind closed doors most of the time, um, and really bring it into a way of being and an energy that you call forth all the time. That there's so much more for all of us, and then it's not so much of this roller coaster ride of being depleted, and then I even hear of couples that'll go away on a vacation and it takes them almost the entire vacation just to relax enough to enjoy it, and by the last night they're like, now we've got it, and then we go back home to the kids. Right.
That's not a way of living. Like sometimes we work so much, but why? What for? If we don't have time perhaps to have those enjoyments. And as you say, creativity is something, this sexual energy, this creative force is something that is always available. So I also teach how to go always through the creative process by syncing with the cycles of the moon as well.
Oh, interesting. As you know, I do confidence work with teens, and that
Yeah.
starts with self-love. But when we talk, I also talk about posture and presence and how you show up, and what that looks like for confidence. And I really see how this connection to your own both self-love and the sexuality affects how you show up everywhere. And that's a big thing in business, right? How you walk into a room, how you address a business partner, a client, a colleague, and who you are at the essence before you even say a word. People are picking up on that. And when
How you
somebody's
feel in
like,
your body
oh,
too.
got it, she's got
Yeah.
something going on, I want some of that, right? You want to be
Yeah.
one of those people, I think.
Yeah, and how we feel in our bodies. Like some, if we want to be out there in the world and have an amazing partner, amazing clients, and we go through the world like, oh, I feel bad in my body. I feel shameful. I feel guilt. That is not a good place to be. We cannot attract anything amazing in our lives. But by peeling those layers of trauma, abuse, shame, guilt, and just really embracing our presence in the world, that completely changes everything.
It really does. It really does. I wanted to ask you about your presence on YouTube. You actually have quite a ton of followers and are quite the YouTube sensation. So I would love to for you to tell us a little bit about that. I'm just going to post one of your links here in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so I have two channels. I have one for martial arts and one for healing arts. And the one that has 5 million views is all my martial arts stuff. And then the other one is building up because it's a little more recent. And I dedicated a little bit less time. But yes, I love this because I worked in primetime television for 10 years or more. And it was great to go and be, everybody sees you and you are recognized and all of that. But I was feeling that I needed to create something that was more my own creation from my heart. So that's when I started with the videos with my martial arts. So I started just putting my videos up there and I created a big following. Like I made myself known for martial arts, which was great. And then once again,
martial arts, is there a specific style? What are they?
so, well, this is one of the stories that I will have to write about sometime. I don't know if it is in this book because I have like almost like two parts of my story. But yeah, I started in martial arts, and like 5 months after, I was already doing short films and started working with a troupe. Then I went to India with ESPN to perform to empower women with martial arts. So it was just like a crazy thing, and it was all kinds of styles, mostly for movies. So I also was a stunt choreographer as well, a fight choreographer. So I have been doing even for Call of Duty in the video game. I did some motion capture, and it's any style really. I specialized later on teaching Bruce Lee's martial art, which is Jeet Kune Do, but because my husband was teaching that, I didn't like it so much. But we got married, so I said okay.
Small sacrifices we make.
Yeah.
So you have your martial arts channel on YouTube as well as your healing arts. I think it might have been James was in one of our coaching sessions and he said you should make sexual kung fu. Was that the phrase?
Like that. I know. It's that thing about integrating everything that we do. Like sometimes we separate things, compartmentalize, which I understand the value of it, but sometimes it's a little hard. But yeah, right now they are, and for Facebook the same. I have 5,000 friends on my healing arts profile and another 5,000 friends on my martial arts profile. So yeah, it would be interesting. How can we combine it? And for me, the combination is that martial arts and healing arts in China, for example, they are part of the same. So my husband trained martial arts and then acupuncture to be able to heal. So that means we hurt ourselves through martial arts. We need to be able to also heal ourselves or others.
That's great. That's great. All right. As we're wrapping things up, tell us a bit. I've got the link here on the page. What do we need to do to connect with you? Do you want us to subscribe on your YouTube channel? Like, what can we do to engage and learn more from you, Victoria?
So for sure, if you're a woman, you need to go to victoriavives.com/self because this is the 5-day challenge. And is it put in here or should I put it?
You can put it. So I have victoriavives.com/ecstatic women, but all you have to do is you go /self.
Yeah, so
all right, we can handle that /self.
All right. I think I put it there maybe. So yeah, because that is the free event that any woman can join, and we will go together. I will guide you, hold you by the hand, and we're going to go together. So it's going to be super easy. Just by 5 minutes a day, imagine that you can 10x the creativity, the productivity. We all know how it feels when we are fully recharged. Like we truly 10x our creativity and productivity, and our relationships can go to the next level as well. So that would be what I would recommend. And if they want to check my website, they just can go to victoriavives.com, and from there they can go to all the other places.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I have also the Divine Sexuality ebook. If anybody would like to download it, it's in victoriavives.com/divine.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I highly recommend women, if men are watching and you have a woman in your life at any age, it doesn't have to be your sexual partner, but just, I think the more that we can all encourage one another to how to tap in, right? Just to say tap into it is one thing, but we really need guidance and encouragement and a community of support with one another to kind of really be brave enough to step into this newer space if it's not if that's not already comfortable for you, women, not you. I know you've got this down pat, Victoria, and just experience how it can elevate every aspect of your life, from your business to your relationship or the relationship you're hoping to have someday, and just how you show up in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Krista. I'm so happy to have met you, and Jay is so wonderful. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share about my message. Jenna, wonderful. Thank you for signing up. We'll see you inside.
Fantastic. All right. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest on the Ask Me Anything show by JBology. And let's all get signed up and follow along together in the 5-day challenge. Invite a girlfriend or 2 or 3 or 4, and let's make this part of a whole movement for women to embrace who they are and have more fun living the life, a feminine life, if that's what calls to you.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much.
Bye.